Affairs don't begin in the bedroom, they begin in childhood. In the part of you that decided she needed to bury her truth just to be loved. The part that's now screaming to be seen. I'm Alex Croxford, and this is the Deeper Love podcast, where we name the shame, face the guilt, and help you find your way back to yourself. So let's begin. When people talk about affairs, we get very fixated on the affair itself. We get fixated on the moral aspect of it, the pain, the trauma, and often the stories that we hear are that the person who cheated is bad or morally dubious or a liar. All of these things which are extremely judgmental and do not allow for anything deeper to come of it. And what I see time and time again with my clients, and this was the same experience in my own life, is more often than not, people who cheat aren't just bad people who have dubious moral judgment. They are people who have been pretending, without even realizing it, that they are happy. And so many people have lives that would even appear enviable from the outside. A nice house, a nice car, the good career, the children, being an upstanding member of the community. And so it can't seem to make sense of how they found themselves doing something to blow up their life that seemed like it was perfect to everybody else. But most often than not, when people have created this perfect looking life on the outside, there can often be a sense of numbness or disconnection, flatness even inside of their lives. There is a sense of going through the motions, getting up, getting the kids up, having breakfast, going to work, coming home, going through the motions of getting the kids ready for bed, watching Netflix for an hour, getting back into bed again, and waking up the next morning and doing the whole thing again. All of the conversations with our partners exist around logistics or gossip about other people. And very often there can be this sense of something missing in the relationship, but you can't put your finger on what. And no one really talks about this part because, as I said, we fixate slightly on the affair itself. But my true belief is that the affair is a symptom, and a symptom of something far beyond what was happening in the relationship. It's a symptom of something that has been going on for years and years and years. Time and time again, I see it, that women have been living a life where they have been giving everything to everyone else and putting themselves at the bottom of the pile. It doesn't even need to be children that you're giving yourself over to. My experience, I didn't have children, but I continuously put my partner's feelings above mine. I didn't ever speak when I was feeling hurt. I didn't speak when I was feeling frustrated that every time he told me he was going to be home from work on time, he was home an hour and a half, 2 hours late. And that was like every day of the week. But I swallowed it because I thought that in order to be lovable, I needed to be easy. I needed to be forgiving. I needed to not make too much of a big deal out of anything. And when I say this, trust me, I am still learning. I am still learning now how not to abandon myself for love. Terrified that if I really speak my truth, if I really say how I feel, that someone is going to leave me. But the thing is when we abandon ourselves long enough, when we keep putting ourselves at the bottom of the pile, eventually a part of us is going to spill out sideways. And we learn this self-abandonment in our childhood. There is no point in me just telling you, you just need to stop abandoning yourself, because that's not going to go anywhere. That doesn't change anything. I'm talking to your conscious mind when I say that. But imprinted in your nervous system, imprinted in your body from childhood are patterns of self-abandonment. And what I mean by that is things like learning to be the good girl rather than being able to speak what is true. Or perhaps you learnt to not be emotional because no one could ever hold you in your emotional experience. Perhaps you were sent to your room for crying. Perhaps you were told to turn the waterworks off. Perhaps you were told big girls don't cry. So you learn to switch your emotions off. You learn to disconnect from them. Perhaps you learn as a child that your achievements were what made you lovable, were what made you good. So you threw all of yourself into your schoolwork, into getting good grades, into getting a good career, into climbing the ladder, in perhaps a career or an arena that's not even really something you wanted to be in. Many times people find themselves as doctors because their parents wanted them to be doctors, or they found themselves down a career route that they realize, actually, this is not what I really want to be doing, but it keeps X, Y, and Z happy, so I'll keep doing it. Or perhaps you even ended up marrying someone because there was pressure from your family or there was pressure from society that you needed to hurry up because as a woman you were running out of time, or perhaps all your friends were getting married at the same time and it felt like, well, this is the thing that we do now, even though there might have been a part of you that wasn't sure that this was the right thing to do. And we learn at such a young age, especially as women, that in order to be acceptable in society, in order to be lovable, we have to push certain parts of us aside, away. The messy parts of us, the needy parts of us, the emotional parts of us. You know, even the phrases around women being over emotional. It's like maybe they're just feeling. But we learn that we have to be like men in order to survive. We learn we have to be cold, we have to be logical, we have to climb the career ladder. And we're learning this from such a young age. We start to disconnect from who we really are because we don't know who we are anymore. We've had to totally sideline that so that we can so that we can still be looked after by our parents. Because to a child, to a human child, survival is based on being accepted and loved. Any other mammal can be born and look after itself almost immediately. And Gabor Mate talks about this a lot. Human mammals are the only mammals who, when they are born, are not capable of looking after themselves. They can't feed themselves, they can't walk, they can't find warmth. And so our existence, our survival, is based upon being loved and accepted and liked by our parents. And so if our parents don't accept parts of us, nor do we. We learn to push them aside, we learn to push them away. And we shape ourselves into the good girl who achieves, who doesn't cry too much, and who doesn't ask for what she needs. But our soul, which exists underneath all of these ways that we learn to survive, will not allow us to go through our entire life without recognition. And this can show up in our lives in many different ways. Some people will get very, very sick. There may be a death of somebody that's very close to us. Perhaps there'll be lots of very painful things that happen in our lives. But really, I believe that an affair is a part of us that is not willing to be suppressed anymore. And I don't mean the part of us that wants to blow our lives up or to feel shame or guilt or whatever. I'm talking about the part of us that has been suppressed and hidden away because as a child, we learned that that part of us was not acceptable. But that part of us is our deepest truth. It is our authentic truth. And it's the part of you that longs for love and connection and intimacy without having to perform or wear a mask or be someone that you're not. Your affair is a symptom of the suppression of self. And it's a wake-up call. It's a huge alarm bell going off in your life saying, wake up. You have not been living true to yourself this time, this entire time. And yes, your relationship that you are in, the one that you betrayed, may also not be in alignment to who you truly are. But you don't know that until you start to connect to yourself. We think that the answer is ending our marriage, finding another partner, moving on, doing all of these things different, moving house, shifting all of these things on the external. But the truth is that you can rearrange all the furniture. You can get new sofas, you can get new curtains, you can put new pictures up on the wall. But if inside of yourself there is still a void because you are so disconnected from who you really are, then you are just going to repeat the pattern over and over again. It might feel different for the first year or two, but unless you really look at what it is that led you here, what it is that this affair is trying to teach you, what it is that this rupture, this pain that you are in, what it's trying to teach you, the chances are you are going to go back into the same pattern of self-abandonment, of living a life that isn't really true, of not speaking your truth, of not being able to share how you feel over and over again. And so the affair, I suspect for many of you, or the betrayal, felt like maybe for the first time you were seen, you were understood, you were heard. And that felt like aliveness. So many women tell me that they felt alive in their affair. And we think it was about them. We think it was about the affair partner. They were the ones that made me feel alive. They were the ones that listened to me. They were the ones that gave me space. They were the ones that desired me. But it wasn't actually about them. It was about how your body and your soul felt when you were there being wanted, being seen, and being emotionally chosen by someone. And that isn't because they were a soulmate. I mean, depends how you define soulmates. I think that we have lots of soulmates in our lives to teach us different things. But I do really believe that that affair partner is an awakener. That situation was an awakener. It showed you where in your life you aren't being true. It showed you where in your life that perhaps you've been ignoring the nagging internal loneliness, or the feeling like something is missing, or the wanting more. I mean, I can talk from my own experience. I had no idea how unhappy I was in my marriage until I cheated. And that's not because the person that I cheated on made me suddenly see all the flaws in my relationship. Quite the opposite. I didn't want to leave my husband for the guy I cheated with. But because of that huge explosion that went off in my life, and because of the consequential healing journey that I went on, including couples therapy, coaching therapy, tons of energy healing, you name it, I did it. It was in that couples therapy that made me really truly see the massive void that was in my relationship and the massive void that was within myself. I had no idea how unhappy, really, I was, because I was so disconnected from myself. I was so disconnected from my feelings. How would I know? And so that moment where I felt wanted, or perhaps you felt wanted or chosen or desired, longed for, seen, heard, was a moment of regulation in your nervous system. You didn't have to hold it all together anymore. You didn't have to perform. You didn't have to abandon yourself to be loved. You could probably be more yourself than you've ever been. You didn't have to play the role of mother or wife or sister or daughter. You just got to be you. And you got to be wanted for being you. And that is huge. But it doesn't mean that you have to now leave your relationship for your affair partner. That's not what that means. That means it's showing you what is not true in your life already. And we don't have to leave our marriages in order to find truth within ourselves. Some of us do. My marriage ended, that we couldn't find our way back together. But that's not the case for everyone. And just because it feels like there's no way that my husband could see me like this, there's no way that I could feel any differently, there's no way that anything could be better, you don't actually know that. You know that from previous experience. You know that from what you've already been through. But you don't know what it's like to be in a relationship where you are connected to yourself. You don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to be in a relationship where you ask for your needs to be met. You don't know what it's like to be in a relationship where you don't abandon yourself, where you say no when you mean no, where you ask for help, where you don't just get bitter and pissed off because your husband's not helping you in the kitchen and then complain about it to your friends. You don't continuously abandon how you feel about something to keep the peace. You don't know what it's like to be in a relationship like that. And there is a world in which if you connect to yourself more deeply, that the energy within your relationship is going to change anyway. Some people say to me, oh, there's no way that my husband is going to meet me there. You don't know that. You've got to try. But the first step is the relationship with yourself. And that is what this soul's cry was. It's asking for more because it is asking for you to wake up to who you are being. Are you living truly, authentically? Are you living a life that you want? Are you doing things that light you up? Or are you putting everybody else ahead of you? And the thing is that after this has all come out, after things have blown up, after we've ended the affair and perhaps our partner now knows, we are living in the aftermath. We're living in the shame and the guilt and the fear of what comes next, the terror of what comes next. But I want to reframe this space that you are in, because where you are in right now, I know it feels so true. I know it feels so real, but you weren't trying to ruin your life. And if you are willing to take self-responsibility for where you are, rather than blaming the situation or your husband, then you have a potential of stepping into a new way of being where love feels completely different, where life feels completely different, where there is aliveness in your body every single day. Yes, you're still going to feel shit some days. That's what being human is. Some days you feel good, some days you feel bad. Some hours you feel good, some hours you feel bad. That is just the human existence. You're going to have moments in your relationship which are moments of wintering, which are moments of death before there is rebirth. And that's really fucking hard. To have the arguments, to have the difficult conversations, to have the tears, to have the fear of the unknown, to have the pain. That's all really, really difficult. But it doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a spring and a summer that is born from that too. And it's possible with your current partner, and it is possible with a future partner. But the first step is trying to live a life where you're no longer abandoning yourself. And this isn't about justifying or bypassing the pain of an affair, because that is real. The trauma of betrayal is real for every single person involved. And I would actually argue to some degree, it's even harder for the one that cheated, because there is no space for us. We are seen to be bad and that we should suffer for what we've done. But in my world, we get to hold both the consequences and the truth that there was far more to it than being lost in desire and lust and secrecy. And when we get to say, you know what? I want to learn from this. Like, I want to learn. What did I need to learn from this painful situation? What did I need to learn about myself? What did I need to learn about love? What do I need to heal? And that's not in a way to excuse self-blame. This isn't about piling it on and on and on you. This is about you being able to see that maybe, just maybe, there is something that I needed to learn and heal from this. What is it showing me? What does my soul want me to know? How can I wake up? How can I live a life that is more truly aligned, more truly authentic? And it doesn't mean that you are wrong or that you are broken or that you have done something. And so how do we do that? We have to go inwards. We have to heal. We have to heal more than just in our minds. We have to get into our bodies. We have to find the parts of us that learnt it wasn't safe to be ourselves, that learned it wasn't safe to ask for our needs to be met, that it wasn't safe to be true, to say how we were feeling. We have to meet those parts and we have to let them know that it is safe now. That's how we heal. We do not heal by shaming ourselves or guilting ourselves or continuing to feel like we are the worst person in the world. That's probably going to happen for a while. This is not a quick process. But what you need right now isn't more shame and isn't more guilt. What you need right now is a space where you get to come in, where there is no judgment, where you don't have to carry this story alone, and where you can land where there is no shame and there is no judgment for what you did. If you're tired of carrying the story alone, I invite you to step inside my go-to healing space for the woman in the aftermath of her affair. It's called The Sanctuary. The link is in the show notes. I can't wait to see you in there. Thank you for listening to the Deeper Love podcast. If today's episode spoke to you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find all the ways to work with me in the show notes. Until next time.